I still remember the look on Mom's face when I strolled into the dining room that morning, laden with grocery bags so heavy, I nearly dropped the roasted turkey and the butter-poached green beans. The table was already set in perfect symmetry. Her grandmother's china plates lined up just so, the silverware polished until it gleamed. The crystal water goblets perched like sentinels beside each napkin fold. But in the center sat a note in her elegant cursive. "I'm sorry. Please, do not come home today. You're not welcome at Thanksgiving. Love, Mom and Dad." I stared at it for a long moment, the handles of the bags growing warm in my hands. My fingers trembled as I traced her handwriting. Not welcome. I'd paid for everything: groceries, wine, the extra pies from the bakery, twice the budget I'd used last year. I'd gone out of my way to secure organic heirloom squash and artisanal cranberry compote. I'd even splurged on a premium spiced cider that cost more than my morning coffee. And this was my reward: exclusion from the feast. I set the bags down with a soft thud and sank into a chair. Outside, the November sun slanted through golden leaves that drifted across the yard like burnt umber confetti. The air smelled of wood smoke and anticipation. The neighborhood, whose porches were already festooned with cornstalks, scarecrows, and hay bales, felt alive with pre-holiday cheer. Except in our house. The halls were too quiet, the scent of turkey absent, the soundtrack painfully silent. I shouldered my phone. A dozen unopened texts from my cousin Maria. "Where are you? We're waiting to carve the turkey. All the pies. Dad's eyeing the pecan ones. Mom said you weren't invited. WTF?" I tapped out a quick reply. "They banned me. Sorry. I'll figure something out." I rummaged in the pantry. Thankfully, I'd stashed a few extra cans of pumpkin puree and a bag of flour. I had onions, garlic, and a hunk of cheddar in the fridge. I even found a forgotten block of dark chocolate. A spark lit in me, a flicker of resolve. If my family wouldn't invite me for Thanksgiving, I would create my own holiday. Right there, on the front porch. I'd invite the neighbors, my friends, the mailman, anyone with a seat to spare. I hauled the bags back into the garage, rummaged for the portable folding table I'd inherited from Grandma Rose, the one she used for garage sales. I dragged it onto the porch and unfolded it with a satisfying click. I stacked plates, set out utensils, pulled wine from the fridge. I lit a string of white twinkle lights around the railing and spiked apple cider in the toaster oven on low. I poured the cider into a cast iron cauldron I'd bought for Halloween. It bubbled and steamed, sending spices into the air. I placed chairs in a semicircle, mismatched wooden kitchen chairs, a wicker rocker, even a picnic stool. By noon the table groaned. Turkey slices fanned out on a platter, mashed potatoes blushing with butter, gravy in a ceramic boat, green beans entwined with toasted almonds, 2 pumpkin pies, 1 pecan pie, and that expensive cider. I set a hand-lettered chalkboard sign at the end of the table: "Thanksgiving banquet. All are welcome." I stepped back and surveyed my handiwork. It looked festive. In the driveway, I spotted Mr. Hernandez, unloading groceries from his SUV. He glanced at my spread, eyes widening. "That looks amazing," he called. "Can I bring my family?" "Please do." I waved. "I've got enough for 20. His daughter Mia, my neighbor and occasional babysitting client, skipped over. "Uncle Sam. Wow. This is cooler than our backyard party." I laughed. "Grab a chair. Dinner's at 1. She raced away, all energy and mischief. Inside, my phone buzzed. Friends asked for the address. I texted 123 Maple Drive and snapped a photo of the spread. Invitations flew across WhatsApp, Snapchat, and Nextdoor. I was practically trending. At 12:30, the first guests arrived. Mr. Hernandez's family, 3 generations in matching flannel, filed in. The kids inhaled turkey and mashed potatoes. The adults poured cider and exchanged compliments. A steam of laughter trailed behind them as they settled in. Next came Sarah and Jake from down the street, wielding a basket of artisanal bread and a purple-hued beet salad. Jake ruffled my hair. "You're a mad genius, Sam." Sarah smiled. "I can't believe you did this. Your folks have no idea how lucky they are to have you." I shrugged. "Let's just hope they show up for leftovers." My phone buzzed again. A text from Maria, spotted in our group chat, but not a reply. I frowned. Her mother Hobby, my aunt, had always taken sides, even when Mom and I made peace. I decided not to worry. Today was about new traditions, not old grudges. By 1 p.m., the porch was humming. Tray after tray appeared, candied yams from Mr. Lee. 2 doors down, gourmet dinner rolls brought by the Millers. a massive veggie platter from the Johnsons, and a 5-layer chocolate cake from Mrs. Patel. Soon the table was a tapestry of color and aroma. I clinked a spoon against a wine glass, my attempt at a toast. Thank you all for coming. You're the best neighbors anyone could ask for. I beamed. Since my own family decided to ban me this year, let's eat like family. Laughter. Forks paused, glasses lifted. The air crackled with warmth and defiance. I sat down and carved a slice of turkey, tucking it between the bread. Mia perched on my knee, foxing a grin. You rock, she whispered in my ear. I try, I whispered back. At 2 p.m., halfway through the feast, I noticed a tidy procession of cars rolling down our street. Our family's black SUVs, Dad's silver sedan, Mom in the passenger seat, eyebrows furrowed. They screeched to a halt in the driveway, tires crunching on the gravel. I saw them spy the porch, a dozen strangers laughing around my table. Mia's tiny legs swinging, Mr. Hernandez wiping gravy from his chin. Sarah singing to her toddler. My family froze. Dad stepped out, adjusting his tie. Mom climbed out, clutching her pearls. Maria hopped down from the back seat, face a mask of shock. I caught Dad's eye and stood. Hey guys, so glad you could join. Mom's lips parted. Sam, what is all this? I gestured grandly. This is my Thanksgiving table. I paid for it, I set it up, and I'm sharing it with the people who actually wanted me here. Feel free to grab a seat. A long silence. Then Dad cleared his throat. This is not how we do things. I swallowed. This is how I do things when I feel unappreciated. Maria's shoulders slumped. She asked, You didn't have to do this. I nodded. You didn't have to ban me. Mom looked around, neighbors awkwardly waving, kids digging into pecan pie with bare hands. She swallowed. We came to apologize. I raised an eyebrow. You came, or you came to your own table? She glanced at the empty seats around the original dining table, spotless and still set inside. We want to make it right. I frowned. It's too late for that. Dad cleared his throat. Please, let us sit. I shook my head, voice firming. No, if you want to sit at my table, you're welcome. My table. But the one inside, that's private now. I've changed the locks. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Locks? I took a breath. Yes, I own the house. I've paid for it, and for this feast. I'm not letting you push me out again. Maria started to cry. Sam, I'm so sorry. I sighed, I know. But sorry doesn't fix a broken seat. I gestured to an empty chair at the end of my table. If you want to eat together, sit here. Now, Mom and Dad glanced at each other, then at the empty chairs among neighbors. Dad bit his lip, took a step. Mom followed, Rachel, my younger sister, whispering apologies as she slipped past Mr. Johnson. They sat stiff and unsure between neighbors they barely knew. I poured them cider. Mom's hands trembled as she held the glass. I sat between Mr. Hernandez and Mom, raising my glass. To forgiveness, I said softly, and to empty tables that taught us where family really is. They clinked glasses. I exhaled, tasting the sweet edge of vindication and hope. The sun dropped, gilding the porches. Neighbors leaned back in their chairs, chatted in comfortable bursts. Kids chased fireflies in the yard beyond. The laughter was genuine, the conversation free of old wounds. I caught Mom's eye again. She mouthed, Thank you. I nodded. This Thanksgiving, I'd paid for everything, only to be banned by my own parents. But they'd found an empty table inside, and realized too late that home isn't defined by address, but by where you're wanted. I'd given them a choice, sit alone, or join me among people who valued me. They chose the latter, and as the breeze curled around us, I understood that sometimes, building your own table is the only way to bring everyone together. Tomorrow, we'd face the family dinner inside, one seat at a smaller table, packed with apologies and second chances. But today, on my beachy porch, we'd created a new tradition. And next year, well, who knew? Maybe they'd let me handle the catering. I raised my glass one last time, grateful for every empty seat that led us here. When I poured that cider and invited Mom and Dad to sit at my table, the tension snapped just enough for them to slip into a chair without tripping over pride. They sat between neighbors they barely knew, Mrs. Johnson from across the street, who'd brought her famous macaroni salad, and my cousin Jacob's best friend Aaron, who'd sneak 2 helpings of cranberry compote before I even spotted him. Dad turned his stiff shoulders to face the group, lifted his glass in a tentative toast, and Mom dabbed at her eyes with a napkin, chin trembling. I caught Maria's eye, her cheeks wet, her voice thick with apology. "Thank you," she mouthed. I nodded, then signaled to Dad to start carving the turkey. He hesitated, then slid the carving knife through the breast with less ceremony than usual, but with careful precision. He handed me a thick slice, then resumed his seat, looking like he'd aged 10 years in a single morning. Neighbors lined up alongside Mom and Dad, the Garcias with their spicy rice pilaf, the Millers with honey-glazed carrots, the Nguyen twins, backpack straps still slung over their shoulders, carrying a vat of Vietnamese-inspired sweet potato pie that smelled like 5 cinnamon sticks and a dream. I distributed plates, sliding a generous scoop of mashed potatoes onto Dad's plate, then Mom's, then a helping for Mrs. Johnson and Aaron too. As we passed dishes around, the porch buzzed with a new energy, one that bridged old grudges and the promise of second chances. I sat back and listened. Mr. Hernandez leaned over to Dad. "You know, this place feels magical. Thanksgiving has never tasted so communal." He gestured at the circle of chairs, the lanterns overhead, the cool trickle of wind through cornstalks. "It's like we're one big family tonight." Dad sighed, staring at his plate. He cleared his throat. "Carlos, you're right. I screwed up. I thought I was protecting our traditions, but I hit a wall I didn't see coming." Carlos nodded, pouring more cider into Dad's glass. "Traditions live in our hearts, not locked rooms." Mom took a breath, voice gentle. "I thought excluding you would make you realize how much you needed us. Instead, I realize how much I need you." She touched my arm. "I'm sorry I hurt you." I swallowed, warmth blooming. "Thank you, I was hurt. But it's behind us now." She released me, turning to Mrs. Johnson. "Please pass the rolls, dear." The Johnsons slid the basket across, and the feast continued. When plates were emptying, I rose and tapped my glass, an impromptu second toast. "I love you all. Today I learned that kindness isn't conditional. And that home is wherever we choose to break bread together." I nodded to Mom and Dad. "Welcome home." They smiled, eyes shining, and the first real unguarded round of applause rippled through the porch. The sun dipped behind the neighbor's oak, and torches flickered to life along the walkway. Conversations deepened. Neighbors I barely spoke with before shared family anecdotes, swapped recipes, and even traded gardening tips. I watched Maria teaching little Mia how to bob for apples in a barrel, giggling as Mia emerged triumphant, face painted with cider. Dad wandered over to Mr. Lee, the grill master next door. "Art, you ever cook ribs on applewood? Might need your help next time." Art grinned. "Sure thing, Frank. And you're on meat duty, not politics." Mom found me by the cider cauldron, where residual steam danced in the torch's glow. She placed a hand on my shoulder. "I've reserved our kitchen table, now officially just a family table. You can sit anywhere your choice next year." Her smile glowed with relief. "I love you." I squeezed her hand. "I love you too." She leaned in. "Also, would you teach me to make that spiced cider?" She gestured at the cauldron. "It's heavenly." I laughed. "Absolutely. We'll make it a tradition." As night deepened, the kids drifted inside to watch a movie. Adults lingered, rocking on the porch, swing or sinking into wicker chairs. The Johnson twins strung fairy lights between the posts. Mr. Hernandez lit sparklers with the younger cousins, their laughter high and bright. The scent of cider and cinnamon mixed with crisp autumn air. The only soundtrack was content murmurs and the occasional crunch of leaves underfoot. I found Dad and Dad's childhood friend, Uncle Joe, sitting side by side in the rocker and folding chair. Uncle Joe tapped his feet. "I've been coming to this house every Thanksgiving since I was knee-high to a grasshopper," he said, voice soft but firm. "I didn't think it could feel new again until tonight." Dad nodded, voice thick. "We were scared of what would happen if we let go. But I'm remembering why we always came back. Because here, we're home." They clinked their cider mugs and watched as ghosts of memory flickered around the porch. Every wedding, every birthday where we gathered under those eaves. The house held every laugh and every tear we'd ever shared. Late, when the last sparkler flickered out and the final glass was drained, neighbors waved goodbye, some stopping to hug me, others slipping a leftover pie into their bag. The porch gradually emptied, chairs folding away and lanterns stowed. I dimmed the twinkle lights and poured the final dregs of cider down the drain, the cauldron's steam retreating into chilly night. Mom and Dad stood at the door, eyes drawn with exhaustion, but alight with gratitude. Mom lifted a mason jar of leftover pecan pie ice cream. Forgot dessert. Let's take this inside, she offered, voice playful. Dad draped a quilt over our shoulders. Come on, kiddo. Let's tuck this house in for the night. We stepped inside together, Mom, Dad, and me, and I flicked on the hallway lights. The long dining table sat cleared inside, pristine as they'd arranged earlier. But tonight, it belonged to none of us. In the living room, the fire crackled once more, my little nod to Grandma's tradition. We sat on the couch, feet tucked under a quilt, and cracked open the ice cream. Mom grabbed a spoon, to an unexpected Thanksgiving. Dad nodded, to never letting pride leave the table empty again. I dipped my spoon, to being welcome. We ate in companionable silence, the crackling fire our only soundtrack, the house basking in warmth and forgiveness. Later, as sleep beckoned, I wandered upstairs to the window overlooking the porch. I saw Dad's favorite lawn chair, now folded and set beside mine, the final fairy lights reflecting in the glass. Somewhere, the oak leaves still whispered in the hush. I touched the window pane. Home. As I turned out the light, the hush followed me down the hallway, whispering of second chances and new traditions. Thanksgivings would come and go, but this one, the one where I faced an empty table and built a new one, would shape every year yet to come. Because family isn't just who invites you in, it's who shows up when you set out a welcome, even when the door was slammed shut. And that, I realized as I drifted off, is the sweetest blessing of all.